We're going to continue production of combat and Spelljammer combat and exploration book assets, image assets, map stuff. Give me a second here to hit all the signals, and then we will get started for a couple hours. So hold on real fast here. We're gonna go over to live and make sure that my signal is working here. Do stuff live, and it sounds like I'm going to do okay. Perfect. And if you, you know what? If you follow me on Twitter, I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter. You also can follow me on Twitter if you wish at Phil Kearney, which is my name down below. Phil Kearney, no spaces. Let's see. I'm going to punch my Discord here real fast and go through my spiel, and then we'll get to work. So my name is Phil. Hi. I create role-playing game PDF supplements. Currently, I focus my attention on 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, which publishes on the DMsGuild. There's a link below. Actually, there's a number of links below to a slew of different books that I've already built on the DMsGuild. If you click in, if you're interested, there's about 150 illustrations across all of them. They're all 100% free preview, so you can read anything that I produce, cover to cover, front to back page. You know, if you're an artist, be welcome to click into any of them. If you are a D&D enthusiast, be welcome to also click in and check out the mechanics. If you like the art, just look at pretty pictures. If you're into the mechanics, then be welcome to study them, explore them, add them to your game, run a 20-level campaign like I do. We play test to see if they work. And if you like it, consider purchasing something. That'd be greatly appreciated. So that's my spiel. You can read any of these things. If you click on any of the books and go into each individual book product page, you'll see, if you're on mobile, there'll be an eye icon on the right-hand side, and if you are on a tablet or desktop, there'll be underneath the book cover, there'll be full preview. If you click full preview or the eye icon, either way, it'll pop open a PDF. You can read the entire thing. So you should. If you enjoy this stuff, awesome. Would love to have your support. A great way to support me as well. In the meantime, easy peasy, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we can continue building momentum towards getting this book done. So that's where we're at today. Spelljammer Combat and Exploration. This was this builds around episode 15 of the Spelljammer playlist that I have on my channel. So certainly be welcome to dive into that and just check out some of the work that we did there. Here's the vessel icons, the ship vessels that we produced for this work, and we're probably going to be messing around with these for a little bit today. And here is the fighter craft icons that we produced similarly for this work that we will be diving into as well, using words. Hey, Dennis, how you doing, dude? So this is another drawing. Right now, what we're doing is we're going to go through the process of me. I'm building book assets. So this is the layout. We use MS Word to create layouts for our books, and we had created in the recent episode we started creating an image of siege combat in wild space in this spot. And as we go through the document, then we have all this space open here to explain how ship combat works at different scales, scoping in and out of, scaling in and out of different size distances on a combat map. So we are going to extract these pages from the Word document, and we are then going to start placing illustrations into these open spots here to the right and to the bottom to depict how these things work. So I'm going to begin that process right now. We'll then take it into Photoshop. Then in Photoshop, we'll be able to lay down these grids and start placing ship tokens and arrows and stuff for people to see how things move around, and might be something I get to ramble on about for a little bit. So this is page, what page are we on? We're on page 13, and then there's 14, so it should be page 12. 13 and 14 that we're preliminarily looking at. I'm going to set a 20-minute timer to make sure we stay on course. We'll build some of these today. We'll probably be back doing NPC character tokens tomorrow. Still have a slew of those to do, but we were talking about ship scaling mechanics on Reddit the other day, yesterday. So I wanted to make sure that for the folks that were checking that stuff out and were interested to learn more about that, that I paid specific attention to map scaling and ship movement in the Spelljammer supplement that we've been creating. So I'm going to, is this a 2-column page? Yes, it is. That's how much gap we have on the page. So scale back, cover, table of contents, introduction, equipment and spelljamming ships. Here's how spelljamming helms work, which we've looked at previous sessions. Additional equipment, as well as then down here into like actual spelljammer ship mechanics, which apparently are, everything's sitting pretty. This is how it's supposed to look. I'm not used to having one thing break from one column to the next, so I'm pretty concise in wording, keeping things in single column formats. We had built out a ship gravity air envelope diagram here previously, and this is just the general layouts of stuff. We had a fun image down here of ships towing a boulder that we have in the previous sessions that we were building. Here's the ship combat we had done, and now we are back talking about mechanics of mechs and movement, and then the scale. So we had touched on all these pages previously in prior episodes of this playlist that you can certainly click through and check out on my channel. But we're going to keep sallying forth into the pre-generated, cast combat, into scaling. That's right. So I'm going to take, page 12, 13, and 14. We're going to extract those using PDF. Let's go to, are we in the right document? Interior pages. Let's do SC and E, 12 to 14. And then our options are going to be pages 12. This is the process I go through whether I'm on stream or not. It's just, you have to extract the pages so that you get them on, so you can get them into Photoshop. So this is just part of making the sausage, which is what this channel is partially about, showing how these PDFs get made, like literally. So here we are publishing these 3 pages. They'll pop up as a PDF. Ugh, not now. Go away, Edge. No one likes you. 550 and 5. So 12, 13, and 14. I'll look over here into the documents, and we can open the new document here in interior pages. We have SCE 12, 13, and 14. Page. Open up these documents. There's no background images because we removed the background from the tokens, from the document in the Word document. So we're going to call this, just building this stuff out. Save as equals interior. This is going to be SCE 12 500 foot scale. And then go here to 50 foot. So file, extract. We'll get into more exciting stuff here in a minute. Just I find that doing this type of work specifically isn't particularly exciting for folks, which is why I'm doing less and less setup and prep and stuff like that. But again, it's good to see the sausage being made for folks that tune in to see how page layouts and actual like book design works. So SC and E 50 scale, and get that out of the way. Craft tokens, and then we'll go here to SC and E 5 foot scale. Save as equals it should actually be 13, which makes this 14 5 foot scale. All right, I'm gonna get that out of the way, and let's go back to open. We'll go back to the 500 foot scale and background fade. So we're gonna open up these 2 pages. Computer's already chugging hard. I've got a couple different programs open that are making it breathe heavy. There is there, and here is the background, so I can select all, copy here, paste, drop that into the background. Our text looks pretty. We have the freedom here to make changes to this. You can see here that there's a mild coloration here up in the upper right hand corner where the RGB is. It's got a very mild color indication here on this, like very, very minuscule. I'm not sure yet what we're going to make the page dressing look like. The page dressing is the color sheen background, like the color wash that you put behind it, as well as like all the pretty stuff that you put in the corners and along the bottom edge, the page number and stuff like that we'll have to build out. So that will at some point be in this process. But it's often easier to, we're about around page 60 of layouts going through the book so far. So once we get all of the pages laid out, we'll be able to build a stack to see how they all sit together. And then from how are all the pages fused together in one giant clump of overlapping text, we'll see what actually inside of the document remains bare, open space for us to start building that filigree assets. Like if we only have stuff coming down to here on most of the pages, or like if we have a consistent whole and chapter headings and stuff like that, we can then build the pretty stuff on the page around what those gaps are. So let's see, let's get this background out of the way, and we'll save this. All right. I'm going to read out loud here for a minute so you guys have an understanding of what we are doing. We already extracted this page previously, and we're not working on it today, but this is the beginning of the combat section, which is Spelljammer's Combat and Exploration provides rules that add options for characters to command spelljamming ships at map scale larger than 5-foot squares, typical of most adventures during a round of combat. So maps and movement, as detailed in the equipment section above. This should actually be the equipment section above. Sorry for the quick spot edit here. I know that's not the point of the channel right now. New equals link. I'm putting these links in on the side so that when the PDF actually gets created, part of the process, once we get everything built out, is to build these hyperlinks and that will self-reference different sections of the book that are being, that the current section is expanding upon. So hold on, you're asking questions. I want to answer them. Is us the me? I've never done a manual type book. No, is this a 2-column page? Yes, it is. This is I use the royal us, I guess, on occasion. So I've got a co-writer and an editor that helped me with this book, plus like 15 different playtesters. You then in Photoshop. So you that in Photoshop, I thought said you use Word to put this together. Yeah, I use Word for all the layout that we're doing here, and I use Photoshop to build the image assets. I then drop those images into Word, which you'll see that process as we finish pictures. But if you were to build your own PDF and you don't have art talent or the ability to do so, most people would end up grabbing stock art somewhere online, depending on what assets are available to them, or hiring an artist to produce things. But yeah, we use Photoshop to build everything out into a final PDF, but I build all my art assets in Photoshop, as I have done so on stream. Once an image is made, I can extract it as a separate image, and then what we do, like I'll just show you how this works real quick. Shape image equals, like for instance, here's a block that I can make, right? And then I can make this block the no fill, so the interior of the box is transparent now, right? And then I can take this and mismatch the size of. It's not this asset isn't ready for extraction into the document yet, but we can still. Let's see. We can insert. Remind me, it's been a while. Format shapes. Oh, boop, 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 boop. 1 second. Let's do this. We're going to Add shape. Add text. Damn it, I should be able to just drop, oh, wait. Image. That's where we're supposed to be at. Insert. Picture. From this device. Thank you. Sorry, I got lost there for a second. Let's see. And then we can go to interior art here. And let's say, let's go to, come on, baby. Why am I failing so hard? Phil, sorry. Phil with a picture. Damn it, I knew I was doing it right. From file, thank you. Jeez, McCrow. This is not the right image, but you can see that we can then drop an image into this space. So that's all I was trying to prove. This isn't the right image, but once it is, when you make these backgrounds transparent, fill with nothing like this, and then you drop a picture into it. Fill equals image, and we'll just do that again real quick so you can see. Here it's covering the text. Now we can right click, format image, wrong one. More layout options equals allow overlap equals yes. Text wrapping. It should be behind the text. Blank. Now you can see crappily because this is the wrong image to use, but the text is now behind the artwork, behind the text. So the art is behind the text now. So once we build this asset into the spaces that we have on a page, we'll be able to extract this image. Just the, like, if I, like, for instance, have a thing here that goes like, you know, if I have a thing like this, I can extract this and then drop it onto the page into where the blank spots are. All that too late. Sorry, clumsy. Having a clumsy start this way. Get rid of that. Pull this back. Okay, so this is talking about maps and movement. So we're looking at, as detailed in the equipment section above, Spelljamming ships can move up to 100 million miles per day, which is from Spelljammer's Adventures in Space. So similar to how a 30-foot movement speed during a round of combat scales to 3 miles per hour during overland travel, which is from the Player's Handbook Adventuring section. Spelljamming ships can also scale distance over time from 1 day of travel to movement during a round of combat. So the below is a list of approximate distances over time that simplify movement during Spelljammer combat and exploration. So you got your travel duration, and then the distance at a major or a minor helm. So major helm is what we were referencing above, 100 million miles per day. That can grind down to 5 million miles per hour. Like I said, it's an approximation for the simple math. 10 minutes equals 1 million miles, 1 minute equals 100 million miles, and then 1 round equals 10,000 miles total. So the maximum speed for a ship that can use a major spelljamming helm is 100 million miles per day, which can scale to a movement speed of approximately 10,000 miles per round during combat. This extreme movement speed can be represented as moving 10 squares on a 1,000 mile square grid map. So as detailed in the ship rules section below, a pilot can move a ship up to 5 squares, similar to walking 25 feet at the 5-foot scale. And you can use your action to move another 5 squares, similar to the dash action, for a total of 10 squares each round. In addition, a ship can safely change scale once each round, either increasing the scale up to the maximum listed above of 1,000 mile squares, or decreasing the scale of map to 5-foot squares before coming to a complete stop. So if a ship or creature increases speed without increasing the scale of the map, the ship can blah. This is just mechanics about movement, not relevant to today's conversation. So range of combat. While a ship can move thousands of miles per round, Weapons and spells are far more limited in range. There are 3 ranges that ships can engage in combat using SC&E variant rules. Actually, it should be, there are 5 scales. We'll fix that. Hit save. So there are 3 scales that ships can engage in combat using Spelljammer combat and exploration variant rules. 500-foot scale, 50-foot scale, and 5-foot scale. And then we dive into the specifics about each of those scales, which is what we are going to then diagram. Having said all this, to get to the point of today, which is looking at the 500-foot scale mechanics. Let's see. So the illustrations to the right will depict combat scaling at the 500-foot square, where the ships are 1 mile, approximately 5,000 feet apart, or 10 squares. As described in the weapons and crew section below, you generally can't attack a target farther than 1 mile away, and we provide mechanics for that as to why. If you click on the link when it's built, you'll be able to find out immediately. Otherwise, go along for the ride. So this is the largest scale map necessary to conduct combat in wild space and the astral sea with siege weapons. If there are relatively immobile objects such as a moon, asteroid belt, and the like that are within 1 mile of combat, placing that object on the map as a reference point provides context for where combat is occurring relative to that object. Otherwise, a blank grid can represent any scale while traveling between worlds, which is how they refer to just like high-speed movement from one planet to another or whatever, like hex crawling through space. So for example, in the illustration that we'll have to the right at the end of the session, the illustration depicts the Imperial Citadel from the adventure Light of Xeraxis, which we've spent a considerable time building, like back around, I want to say episodes, maybe around episode 40 of our playlist. So at the 500, so Citadel Light, at the 500-foot scale, a fleet of Star Moths is defending the Citadel from an enemy fleet of ships, which we'll depict here. Since the Citadel is a relatively immobile object relevant to the battle, it's a place on the map for reference, and the battling ships are able to move and attack at this 500-foot scale around it. When a ship is 10 or more squares away from any target at the 500-foot scale, they can simply be removed or placed on a separate map free of any immobile objects to represent movement at any scale as detailed in the pursuit and exploration section further below about moving beyond the 500-foot scale during combat, which we provide a lot of details for if you just want to click into it or come along for the ride until we get there. At the 500-foot scale, typically siege weapons... That is an error, I need to get rid of that. At the 500-foot scale, typically siege weapons are used to attack ships and similarly large objects. Siege weapons. So the exact location of creatures aboard a ship isn't depicted at this scale, but the DM can describe the location as needed or place creatures on a 5-foot scale map as described in the next few pages below. The ships in adjacent 500-foot squares can close distance to the 10 squares apart at the 50-foot scale during movement, and any remaining movement can then be used at the 50-foot scale. So that's how this page breaks down. So we're going to provide some visual assets to explain what this stuff means, which is what our task for today is. So I'm going to, let's grab this. Let's grab this grid, and then we're going to duplicate this group, and we're going to drop it. Now that everyone has the context as to exactly what we're doing on this page, we can sally forth with, nope, that was the wrong place to be. So let's try that again. We're going to duplicate this layer, and then we're going to drop it into the SC&E. Okay, SC&E. Oh, there it is. Unlock. Here's our grid. Don't need that. We might need that, but we don't need it right now. So let's see. We probably don't need this large of a grid, but what we're going to do is, let's bring that back in as a frame of reference. So what we need to do is, since we're saying that we're depicting 2 ships at the 500-foot scale, 10 squares apart, timely timer. The illustration to the right depicts combat scaling at the 500-foot scale where the ships are 1 mile apart, approximately 5,000 squares. So wherever we're at, we need to use this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We need to have those 10 squares apart. So let's see. We are going to depict. For example, in the illustration depicts the Imperial Citadel from the Adventure Light of Xeraxis at the 500-foot scale. A fleet of Star Moss is defending the Citadel. So let's go grab ourselves a Citadel asset, and I'm going to actually duplicate the layer. There are two scroll. Chessex is kind of the industry dominator for tabletop vinyl playmat grids. They're 1-inch square maps, and I believe they have their most common sizes is 18 by 24, and then the larger size is 24 by 36. So what we're depicting here is going to be basically. We should be able to, I think we should be able to fit this for the illustration onto a 24-inch spread. So we've got 10, 20. So our goal is to limit the space of this map to be 24 squares tall. So then we can then extrapolate how large can this map space be in this illustration to fill the space with a giant illustration. So I'm going to now use these square guidelines to open. Let's go find a production asset. Page, SC&E, test blank, workbench. I should have assets. No, wait, locks. So let's just do it like this. Window. This is just a rough, just to get the layout, so I don't mind if things are a little sloppy until we start locking it down. But right now, we just need to make sure we know how large these assets are for us to be able to. Oh, that's why. I was like, why is that so gray and weird? There we go. Text, lock. So obviously, like when we build this, we can obviously have a pretty large space that we're occupying. So let's get the asset in place just so we can see how it sits, and then we can come back and we do something prettier later. .500-foot square. And now let's go back here, and I'm just gonna steal a couple inches here. quick and easy assets, not the permanent final solution. There we go. Line that up. Slop. Okay, so that's a start. And then next, let's see, how's that text read? So it says, Sarmos is defending the citadel from an enemy fleet of ships. Let's go to Baka. Vessel tokens. Starmoth. Starmoth token, and then we go. Oops. Double oops. Come on, kiddo. Thank you. Copy. Actually, let's just do let's do it the other way. No. Let's duplicate that group into the SCE. There. There you are. Thank you. Transform equals vertical. There we go. Start moths. Moths, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we start there. So we have our ships here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, bam, 10. let's grab some assets over here. Hide that. Let's see. Take duplicate scorpions. Drop them down into the C and E. Grab space galleons. No, yep, space galleons. And we'll duplicate that layer and drop that into SC and E. Let's grab the wasps. Duplicate that layer and drop that into the SC and E. Let's grab a hammer ship. Duplicate that layer into the SC and E. That should be good. Merge, 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 merge. Is over for transform. Zoom in. Fuse's word for his, use that in Photoshop. I thought, hey, Hornetico, it's good to see you, my dude. Fuse's word text program, but the art is done in an art program. Yes, yes. But if you had your own assets, you'd be able to go in and obviously drop them into the document like I showed earlier with the image placement stuff. But we'll look at how that stuff is done once we get there. This is part of the process. Like, this is the why we bother doing art in the first place. Hammer ship, wasp, space galleon, scorpion. Let's do these separately this time instead, so they don't get completely pixelated. Like I said, this is a rough, so all we're really doing right now is figuring out how do these tokens sit, and then once we figure out how everything sits, and we we increase the map scale so it fits the size of the page, we'll know exactly how large these ship token assets will actually need to be compared to how they are currently, which is very, very small, very, very small. But we'll make this map bigger, so that's part of the process. So we want to be about here, hammer ship here, wasp like this, galleon here. There's no rhyme or reason. I mean, this is even all the ships that are. What we're doing here is we are reproducing the fleet asset token, the fleet. We're reproducing the ally fleet from Laya Zarax's here, and having the enemy team down here represented in these separate token blocks. So like these are representing multiple ships of the same type. Like I think it's like 5 scorpion ships and 2 hammer ships and like 3 wasp ships and 3 galleon ships. But this token is representing them just as individual, as squadrons, as individual tokens. So this very, very small on the map right now. So, but now that we have, let's verify 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's 10 apart. So now that we know what this is actually sitting at, we can take all of this larger than we need. So let's see if we drop this down to something like that. At the back of this line here over the front there, and we're going to drop this down to about like that. So this now becomes our grid scale. So we'll see how all this stuff sits. Right now we're just exploring, just like we do with sketches. We're just exploring to see how should this sit on the page. What does it look like? Do we like it? And if we hate it, then we can then go back and rearrange the text appropriately. But let's see. But this is we can do a fading technique like this. To keep the art asset from getting in the way of the page by using a screen mask here, right? And then get that out of the way. Blah, 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 blah. Yonder. You know what? Honestly, when we get done with building this, we might not need to have 10 squares. That was just an arbitrary distance that I placed for this particular map. Other maps, it's important, but this one, it's actually not. But, so what we would end up doing... I want to have a couple inches off to the side here so that it isn't such a boxed-in area, but... we could though, so let's just explore space. Pardon the pun. Let's bring these guys in a little closer. So they're 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're 5 squares apart. This becomes, I think that is a more reasonable size for us to be able to see what's going on. So I think that can work. Let me do stuff like that, like have the map poke into the text area, so it doesn't get in the way. God, I might end up just putting like a grid in the background, like as part of the background asset, like a super faint grid that can like poke out at different areas of the text as like this as a subtle way to, God, that would be so, it'd be a custom image for every single page. I don't know if I'm willing to do that or not. That could crush the computer, but it's worth exploring because it's a neat idea. I like this grid option sort of idea going in, because the supplement is largely about using different scale of movement for vessels at these different sizes. So it's like super, like the document is largely about map scale movement, as well as like scaling damage and other things at larger scales than what D&D normally operates in, but it's an interesting option for visual assets, I think. Here like this. I'm gonna drop down the opacity so it smudges out a bit. Like that. Okay, cool. So that's, well, that depicts it. Let's see, if there are relatively immobile objects such as moons, asteroid belts, and the like that are within a 1 mile area, placing the objects on the map as reference points. For example, in the illustration depicts the Imperial Citadel from the Adventure Light of Xeraxis at the 500-foot scale. A fleet of star moths is defending the Citadel from an enemy fleet of ships. Since the Citadel is a relative immobile object relevant at the battle, it's placed in the 500-foot at the place on the map for reference, and the battling ships are above to move and attack, and the battling ships are able to move and attack at the 500-foot scale around it. When a ship is 10 or more squares away from an object at the 500-foot scale, they can simply be removed or placed on a separate map. At the 500-foot scale, typically siege weapons are used to attack ships and similarly large objects. The exact locations up to the DM, 5-foot map. Ships in adjacent 500-foot squares can close distance to 10 squares apart at the 50-foot scale during movement, and any remaining movement can be used at the 50-foot scale. So, how can we abuse this? What we can do is disable this. What we could do, since this text is only referring to one image, and that image is resolving, we could potentially increase the size of this. It's there. Like here. Let's do that. Like this. So that we're eating into the text space. We can New York Borg this a little bit. So I'm just trying to set up the space here. Whew, all right. And then I'm gonna do this instead. Just knock that out. completely. Yeah, let's just knock that out. Something like that. There, now that we have that, we can grab here. This is just the sample, so we can save to your computer. Let's go with JPEG. Test image. File. No, image. Right. File. And then open equals 500 foot scale image. So this is the image that we've just produced, right? And we know from the image that we know from the text that we had on the page. That we had a lot of open space. So I'm going to, let's see, look at the image size. Does not need to be that large in scale. So let's drop down the resolution to 150. Save that. Now we'll go back to our Word document. And we're going to insert a shape image here. And now we're going to take this image and we're going to go to the size option and go to size equals 8.5. That's not accurate. It's 11, and then this is going to be 8.5 width, and then the alignment table. Align object. We're going to align the page and then align left and align top. And you can see that the whole page is now covered with this image, right? So now we can go to the fill and pictures from file equals production, interior pages, SCNE. More layout options. Text wrapping equals behind text. Done. Now what we can do is we can play with the column format. Now I don't want to go in here and break the column for this because all these are using the same column width. But in this instance, in a very Bjorg sort of way, we're going to do this. I don't know if this is going to fit or not, so we'll be able to mess with the sizing depending on how all the text ends up sitting. But this is the process. This is the way. So once we finish this, we'll then be able to extract this page again, drop it back into Photoshop, and then reorient where this sits on the side of the page here. Instead of this being the text, we're going to change the text. So if we do this 98 times, we win. So that's what we're doing here. Where are we sitting on time? It's almost 7 o'clock, so we almost have an hour. That's cool. Sorry, I'm checking my there, and provide is otherwise while the so far this is sussing out might of and this is pretty much how the map was set up, like exactly when we were playtesting this in Roll20. So, legit. Super legit. See, that works. Okay, so now we have a rough idea of how we want this thing to be. We can, let's see. No fill. So the image still exists. We just haven't filled it with anything, so it's not going to interrupt. Extracting this, which is what, page 12? So we're going to extract this again, export, create a PDF, options, current page, document, delete, page 12, revised. Here's the text. Go. So if we were to do this again, we would, let's see. Doo-doo. contemplating. Yeah, so that is good enough for the moment on that particular piece. I mean, obviously we want to have like this same black map extended underneath here and faded out, or we'll end up just doing a blank white grid with it on there, which we could certainly do. Production, locks. Don't need that currently. Pop, pop. Making sure things are set ready. Hold on. It's not normal for me to get a text at this hour. Alright, I'm not going to share what that is, but it's fascinating. Yeah, I'm not going to bore you with those details. So let's get back to where we were here. There's our timer. Keep that going. Let's get this here. And we can extract. There we go. There we go. Something like that. Wait. Oh, we can do this one better. We can do this one a little bit better. This is an idea I was messing with before. Obviously, we'll have to fix it so it's aligned properly, but... Okay, that lines up pretty well. So what we're going to do is, this will be cool. We're going to duplicate, merge that down. We can actually get rid of that. All right, so check this out. We're going to do this to here. I like how that is. And then we can hold on. There we go. That's what I needed to get rid of. Down here we are building, and then here I mean the map is unaligned, but this is just a rough sketch for us to understand how the piece works and for us to build out further from there. So we're going to that, keep our borders. See what we got going on here? Isn't this shit great? This fuzz down. So we can do this color fade from black and white. So we can manipulate black and white versus color by having the line art on one layer and then the color on layers underneath it. And then we can work with the opacity this masking effect, this foggy masking effect. So we could potentially do color for all of our illustrations, but then bleed out a lot of the color using this haze, which is kind of like the Astral Sea. That's the idea anyway. So I'm working on the grid is on a separate mask from the color art, and so once we actually get the grids properly aligned, they'll mesh together really well. And we can just do that through layering. But like I said, we're just doing some big brain ideas right now just to see what kind of a visual language we want to build for this piece overall, and we can start replicating this. Since we've only worked in black and white, since we've been doing line art so far for the other assets on the page, we can start looking at this haze effect as a potential means of framing framing each picture on side of the page. Like yonder. One, two, three, four, five. There you go. Like that's the idea anyway. That's where we're attempting to go with this. I'll finish this up here in a moment, just to play it out a little bit, just to get the idea across, and then we'll move on to the next page. Complex in the layering. Enjoying the process though. We'll figure out a cleaner way to do this. But I think the concept is sound. Like that. And this is like this. Yeah, like that-ish. So, I mean, it's still crappy and everything, but as long as the text reads okay and I'm not blocking that. Like this over here is kind of where I'm trying to get with this. God, I can even cut across like this and still have these ships be perfectly visible on the map. So that means what we would need to do is take these and this. and use the haze to help make the assets pop out. Oh my god, how fun is that? Something like that. I mean, it's crappy right now, but it'll end up, you know, once we spend the time to haze it out, it'll be better. Yeah, so let's go ahead and take this as an idea. Blump. And it looks horrible right now, but that's okay. I'm going to file, save as, JPEG, place, yes. Cancel. Save this for now. Get that out of the way. File. Let's see. Next one I want to bring out is going to be the 50. Let's go open. So we may end up doing the same here. Let's see how things sit. So we're going to go back here again, and oh wait, I want to finish doing this. Open here, and let's drop this image size from 300 down to 150, so we don't make our computer cry when you open up this file. We still have image, which we can now fill with our new picture from file here, and look at that, it looks exactly the same. Looks exactly the same as it did when I shouldn't have closed that document, but let's open it back up again. Nope, that is the same stupid thing. File equals blurb equals there. See, the exact same thing. So that is how we end up inserting images. Obviously, when this is done, it'll not be sloppy crap, but the size here is good. So it doesn't have to be high resolution. It's good enough. Like, you aren't going to be zooming this close to read the book. So this is, again, playing with the idea of what exactly how much resolution do we need inside of an image. So we can pull this out a bit. We can file, export as a single page here, bop, 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 page 12, insert sample. Bam. There's our PDF. Page. I have like the page number down here somewhere whenever we figure that out. But this is probably a reasonable size on a PDF for people to be able to read. Like, this is like, I'm blind, so this is really comfortable for me to read. But it may be easy enough for you to read it at this scale, which fits on the page without any zooming at all, the width of the document. So you can see the top here. And the illustration to the right depicts combat scaling at 500-foot squares, where the ships are approximately 2,500 feet apart, or 5 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As described in the weapon system. This is going to be... No, sorry. Right, we don't have this hyperlink yet. That's why it's not doing anything. But this will be a hyperlink, so we'd be able to just click on this. And it'll just bounce you down to the page where it talks about weapons and stuff. And then you can hit the back button to go back to where you are currently. So, for example, the illustration depicts the Imperial Citadel from the adventure of Lido's Raxus at the 500-foot scale. A fleet of star moths is defending the Citadel from an enemy fleet of ships. Since the Citadel is a relatively immobile object relevant to the battle, it's placed on the map for reference, and the battling ships are able to move and attack at the 500-foot scale around it. So there, we did a 3/4. This is like a 2/3 page of art using all the art assets that we had produced previously for us to be able to not only fill the space with color imagery, but we've now figured out a way to transition from this full color through this grid into the black and white, like the quote unquote black and white text area here. So I think we've got a really good fade idea. Like I could fade this more all the way back to just the black and white squares all together, and then just have the color, like you can see, have the color fade in here, and then there you go. But then when you actually get the art assets in the zip file that the PDF comes with, obviously you'll have this the full grid. So we get this out of the way, this out of the way, and we got the next page lined up for us to start working with. So let's get the file here, background fade. There, and we may end up doing the same thing for this one. So let's see what we have going on. Sorry, I've been really inattentive because this is the first time I've ever done this. Like, I'm exploring in real time with you guys, so I'm kind of focusing on the image here and kind of talking my way through the process with you. But I've kind of been neglecting chat today, so we're gonna come back tomorrow morning, and for the rest of the week, we'll be doing NPC token art again. So I don't want to. I'm going to try to do as much of this diagram asset, like placement overall, off screen, so you guys don't have to sit here and endure through this process of me doing this. But as part of the process of building the book, I think it's important for us to be able to see how we go through these processes, so that you know what it is that I'm doing when I'm off screen. And when I'm on screen, I'm going to try to focus on more of the fun stuff that I can freewheel and talk about. It's like doing spin doodle and color assets and stuff, a little more easy breezy. Let's see. Plus, there are plenty of free art programs there. Really work. Yes, there are. Fire alpaca for a long time before moving to something a bit stronger. Right on. And I used GIMP for a long time as well. That was my initial go-to. So, okay, great. So we're looking at the 50-foot scale. We haven't read this text yet, so let's take a look at this. The illustration to the right depicts combat scaling at the 50-foot squares. When a ship closes within 500 feet of a target, you can place them on the 50-foot square map You can place them on the 50-foot square map in unoccupied spaces 10 squares apart in the same relative position as they are on the 50-foot scale map. If no space is available, place them on the next available square farther away from each other. For example, the illustration to the right depicts a star moth, 2 flitters, and a wasp ship on a 50-foot scale map. This separate map represents the relative positions of each ship in battle at this scale while still present on the original 500-foot scale map above. When a this separate map represents the relative position of each ship in battle at this scale while still present on the original 500-foot scale map above. Okay, when a ship is 500 or more feet away from any target at the scale, they can be removed from the 50-foot scale map and placed on the 500-foot scale map in adjacent squares relative to their position at the 50-foot square. So obviously we need to visualize this. At the 50-foot scale, typically ranges and thrown weapons are used to make attacks, as well as melee siege weapons if within reach, as detailed in the weapons and crew sections below. Now, the exact locations of creatures aboard a ship isn't depicted at this scale, but the DM can describe the locations as needed, or place creatures on the 5-foot scale map as described below. Ships in adjacent 50-foot squares can close distance to 10 squares apart at the 5-foot scale during movement, and any remaining movement can be used at the 5-foot scale. So we now want to create a map that's going to help visualize what this process is. So let's get this guy out of here for now. So we don't need this for now. We have the background, so we don't need that open anymore. So we can keep our deck clean by closing files out to spare CPU usage. So we can duplicate this group, and we can duplicate this group into the 50-foot scale area. And we're going to start going through the same process. So let's merge this group down. Unlock it. Text. Lock text for now. Pull up the top layer. Background, BG, lock that for now here. And we already know that we're going to build a screen asset here. And we may or may not need to keep this column width. We shall see. I feel like we can pluck this and drop it. Like we can mess around with the text placement now that we're getting a better idea of how large this map space is going to be and how we can narrow the columns like we did in the previous page. We can play with the width of the column as we need to integrate with the art assets that we're producing. So we have a lot of freedom of expression there that we can lean into as we continue through this process. So the grid, and then so let's see, what are we talking about? Star Moth, 2 flitters, and a wasp ship. I bet we can get away with a much larger grid already. Let's start here and see where it leads us. Not the right choice. Let's try that again. Let's duplicate this group. We're going to duplicate it into the 50-foot scale equals okay. Equals. merge that group, duplicate that group. Vessels, seal, star moth, duplicate, 50-foot scale. Merge down. Starmoth, 2 flitters, and a wasp. Here. Merge. 3 by 3. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we can when a ship closes within 500 feet of the target, so we can take, let's see, duplicate. Color. get rid of the other assets we don't need. Pixels. Thank you. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's properly frame these. One, two, three, four, five. Started watching 1923 on Paramount. It's a prequel to that Yellowstone show. And boy, it's really good. Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, freaking fantastic. Highly recommend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. instead we do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Hey, timer. All right, we're on our last 20-minute. Oh God, it's already 7:50. Okay, great. So for the example, to the right depicts a star moth, 2 flitters, and a wasp ship. I should probably word that as a wasp, a star moth, and 2 flitters in the order of appearance. So. There, and then so at the 50-foot scale, typically ranged and thrown weapons are defined when a ship is 500 feet or more away from the target. At the scale, they can be removed from the 50-foot scale and placed on the 500-foot scale map in adjacent squares relative to the position at the 50-foot square. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Huh, they're too close. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ship just 500 feet or more away from the target. They can be removed from the 50-foot scale and placed on the 500-foot map in adjacent squares relative to the position at the 50-foot scale. Typically, things around, so ship from adjacent 50-foot squares in close distance to the 10-foot square apart at the 5-foot scale during combat, and any movement can be used at the 5-foot scale. So, let's see. I actually want to flip this map. Here and here. Something like that. So this too can also be, we can also trim down the text here to run down this line a little thinner. and have these assets a little bit larger on the page. Feet, 50 feet. That's basically how it works. You move from one map at the 500-foot scale to the 50-foot scale, and then the next page would be going from the 50-foot scale to the 5-foot scale, so that you're continually zooming in and zooming out again. So that is what we are attempting to do with these visual assets, to produce images to visualize how these things scope together with these squares, and then relative movement, just dropping in squares like this. That's the start anyway. That's the thought process that's going on behind here. So that's what we've been working on today, and it is 7:58, so I'm going to have to clock out. This is the challenge that we face of being able to provide, convert these ideas about these different scales and be able to visualize them so that people can easily digest the information. I'm not sure if we're hitting the mark quite yet or not, but I like where this is heading, and that is, again, that is the challenge of it. And it's just these 3 pages here. Once we can establish that language about how these are moving from one scale map to the next, we should be the rest of the book will be able to show things at different scales, either the 500-foot scale, 50-foot scale, or 5-foot scale, depending on what is specifically being talked about. Like if we're talking about craft, which are up to 50 feet in size, ramming other vessels, then we'll be able to depict things at the 50-foot scale doing so, or even at the 5-foot scale. Zooming in on the ships more so to see how they're ramming things like when you're operating at the 5-foot scale, or how it operates at the 50-foot scale. So what I might actually need to do instead is take this block of information as it's formatted here and actually break it up into little blocks so that we can show and add additional text. Like here we're showing 2 ships at the 500-foot scale. They zoom in and now you see that they are at the 50-foot scale, 10 squares apart. And then if we were to zoom out again, then you would see that they would again be at the 500-foot scale, or like have images of closing distance or whatever. But we can break up this text. Like we can take this paragraph, move this block here and place it here, and then like take these 2 paragraphs and move them over here, and then have the images that we want to have to depict that here instead. So we are this is just the preliminary stage of where we're at. I think we did the 500-foot scale okay, because that is pretty straightforward. But yes, these three pages are key to us being able to help people understand how you can, because these can all 3 sit on different maps, which we talk about on page 14. You can have these all sitting on maps next to each other, 10 by 20 square inch grids, depicting these different scales of battle, and you can just you can transition from one map to the next. But again, we have to have enough. Need to have enough visual assets to be able to show how that works, which we are in the process of doing right now. So. Yeah, stay tuned, guys. That's where we're at. We're going to pick this up tomorrow. We won't pick this up. I'm going to continue working on this on my own independently. When we're back in the morning, we're going to continue doing Lazarax's NPC tokens. At lunch today, we're going to explore martial powers and look at the way that 4th edition grouped monsters into brutes, artillerists, control, etc. Blah blah blah. We're going to see how we can express those different types of creatures using the martial power system to build different, like a brute kit or an artillerist kit and all those things for you to be able to use easy drag and drop options for creatures. And then tonight we're going to be back and we're going to continue working on the Eberron map. So I'll work on this independently. We're going to continue working on page layouts independently, and we'll provide you with updates as we go along. So stick around, like, subscribe, catch some other hours of content production that we've been working on. Follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney if you want, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks a lot, guys.